Dating relationship Q&A. We are going to get another fast one here. What's this? What's this stuff? Interesting. How are we doing? We doing well? We doing well, guys? How are we feeling? Big busy day today. Oh, look at this. I can see the beard starting to come back a little bit. Look at that. Baby face going away. All right. Time is of the essence, so I'm going to dive right into the wine so we can get as many of these questions hit up as we possibly can. So we're taking a step back from Tuscany. All right, taking a step back from Tuscany because we already have a lot of reds in this house open as a result. But more than that, if you guys recall, I was talking about when we were doing Alto Adige, I said, I want to get a Pinot Grigio from Alto Adige because Pinot Grigio is probably the biggest wine produced in Alto Adige, especially white wine. And so I did that. And I went down to the store. I dropped some stacks on the periscope wine. And I picked up 3 Pinot Grigios from the same producer. Now, you've seen this producer before, if you recall. We had this producer for some of the red wine in Alto Adige. And truth be told, I was not psyched about it. I was not psyched about their red wine. But I wanted to have some sort of contrast. And so I have 3 Alto Adige Pinot Grigios here. Now, I have tried to find out information about these so that we know what we're actually dealing with. And here's what I got. Nothing from this one, although I'll tell you, just says Alto Adige. So I think that this is the basic Pinot Grigio. This is the Pinot Grigio from all over their estates and all of Alto Adige. Okay? This one, the Corvara, right? Corvara or Corvana. Is it an R? Corvara, okay? This is from the south of Alto Adige. All right, it's from the south. It gets a lot of wind. This is also a little bit of a hotter area. So this should be very interesting. This is some of the best area to grow Pinot Grigio in all of Alto Adige. And then we have this one right here, which is from the far north, and it has the best aspect, okay? Best aspect being that it is basically getting the sort of best positioning from sunlight. And more than that, it's, how do I put this? So you want to be mid-slope usually. Mid-slope, generally facing the southeast, but actually in Alto Adige, the southwest is better. I don't know exactly why that is. Generally, you want the morning sun for heating, but it has to be south-facing, southeast, or the minimum southwest. So in Alto Adige, this is probably mid-slope southwest. Now, you want it mid-slope. Why? Because in mid-slope, you get plenty of sun. It's still relatively warm. Like you go too far up, it gets very cold and frigid, especially in these mountains. But if you go too far down, it can get really wet. You don't have enough drainage. So all the rain comes down and then you can get mildew and stuff like that. So mid-slope is where you want to be. You get the best kind of winds to cool off the stuff. So you look at the wines here and you notice that they're all straw color as you would expect from Pinot Grigio, right? Pinot Grigio is a thick-skinned white grape, arguably a gray grape, right? Grigio, gris, meaning gray. So it's somewhere between Pinot Noir and Pinot Blanc. You can make orange wine out of this stuff. But look at this last one. Okay, there's a little bit of a salmon color to it. So I'm interested to see what might be the difference. I didn't have any indication of winemaking and how they produced it differently. You can see these are very straw. This is a little bit more orange. So let's try it out. So really off the bat, what you'd expect from a Pinot Grigio, just a lot of apples, a lot of peaches, a lot of pears, apricots. Yep. Basically, you're getting a lot of stone fruit. On the palate, though, it's more apple, actually. Almost tastes like apple juice. Pretty linear, nothing wrong with it. I have to say, Pinot Grigios are often very thin. This one is not. So it's got some weight to it. And it's actually surprising why they're often thin, because you would think that they would be heavier because of the skin contact, but that's been my experience. All right, so now we're doing the first, as they would call it in France, they would call these a lieu-dit, which I guess it would mean something like, well, it's an idiom in French, but it would, I'm trying to think of a literal translation would be like it says like line says or something. It doesn't make any sense. But a lieu-dit is basically a plot that has a distinct characteristic to it. So this lieu-dit is Corvana. So we're going to try this. Much richer and smoother. The difference is not dramatic, but it is a tier above, especially when it comes to texture. The first one kind of has what you very often get with which you kind of often get with a lot of, just basic white wines where you have a big sort of fruit flavor blast and then it fades. That's how you pronounce it. That's how you spell it, Ben. Yeah. There's an asterisk between it though. But that the wine is, I don't know how to put this exactly. It's just very one-dimensional, and it might have a longer finish, but it's pretty one-dimensional. And so we have with this stuff here, it's much smoother. It's a little richer. You want to drink number 2 a lot more than number 1. There's no doubt about that. Now let's try this third one. This is the one I'm most interested in. Okay, thank you, Ben. The place says. So that makes sense. The place says. So nose is very different on this one from the second one. It's actually very delicate. Wow. Wow, this is a lot more. It's not like tons and tons of flavors hitting you. It's very well put together, and it's got a lot of finesse to it. I don't even know how to describe this. It's definitely my favorite. It's very interesting. A lot of times with these Pinot Grigios, with a lot of times with wine, it's not that you necessarily like the difference between an okay wine and a good wine is not necessarily that you get more flavor. Very often you do get some more flavor, or you get more types of flavor, but it's not necessarily that. Very often the big difference is how integrated the flavors are together, what the texture's like, what the experience of drinking the wine is. This is just very, very basic white wine, right? But when you go to these ones, the flavor integrates together better, and the experience of drinking it is much smoother. So anyway, that's the Pinot Grigio. And yeah, the trolls are out. Trolls are always going to be out, but I think that they're coming out now. They're coming out now in particular because they always come out when things are going to go bad. You guys notice that? You notice that? That's the Matrix. That's how it works. We're going to talk about that more in the COVID cabal, though. Got a lot of things to talk about in the COVID cabal. So I'm going to try to plow through these questions as much as I can because I want to make sure that we have enough time in this window. All right. Hi, Pat. I'm hoping you'd be able to take this question for the Periscope tomorrow. A bit about me. I, age 31, used to have sex with the girls I dated, and now I'm a born-again Christian. I'm extremely introverted, lived a sedentary life playing video games, and now I'm taking my health and exercise seriously since Rona kicked in. I'm looking at different avenues to get into tech school or at least an apprenticeship with the trade shops. I've been selling my stuff on eBay, practicing bass, and getting myself used to reading more. There's this cute girl, age 22, who goes to the same church I go to, and we are both part of the worship team, setting up the equipment and tearing down. Due to the urgency of setting up, she's always talking to her cousin and friends directly after church service. I don't see any opportunities to even talk to her unless it pertains to the status of the equipment. I realize that this is probably the most basic question you can probably get. What's the best way to approach doing this the Christian way, starting small and not rushing? This feels foreign to me, and I intend to save sex for after marriage. If there's anything you'd like me to clean up, please let me know. All right. So, she's always talking to her cousin and friends directly after church service. Okay. Now, I'm going to caveat that I'm not in this kind of community. I mean, I'm Christian, but I don't have personal experience dating within Christian circles. Okay, like dating within the church. So I'm going to emphasize that this is what follows is my perspective, but I can't say this has been tested heavily in that environment. I'm going to present two perspectives to you. The first perspective, and this is the one that most people would tell you within these Christian circles, my guess would be to befriend her cousin and friends, basically talk to them, and then perhaps express interest through them to get a chance to hang out. I don't recommend that. I don't recommend going through intermediaries. I think that you open yourself up to tons of drama. Okay. Now, that being said, I do think that there's benefits to befriending the broader group along with her cousin. I think there's value to that, but you should ultimately be befriending them as a result to spend more time with her. Okay. Of course, you could also just go and approach her and talk to her. But if you want to do this in a grounding for the social circle, then spend more time when she's talking to the cousin. You can go talk to the cousin. You can talk to the cousin yourself. This is actually a really good idea, is that if you talk to people who she would normally talk to, then first off, she sees you talking to them and you befriend them. They like you. So she sees you talking to them. And so you're kind of bought in already. You're kind of already perceived as within the inner group, or at least, considerable. But the other part of this, which is pretty relevant, is that puts you in a position where she's likely to then come talk to you, and then you can talk to her naturally because it's not like you went right after her. And this is a social circle indirect approach. I haven't defined it like that, but it's a very common way to get a chance to meet girls that you like, but you don't want to be direct about it because of the social pressures. You go direct with their friends, you befriend their friends, and then she's naturally in your circle. Right? So that's how I would recommend doing it. This is really my perspective. There are people who will disagree with this, but I'm telling you this as an attraction professional. Do not express your interest to the friends, to her cousin, before you express it to her. Don't do it. Don't do it. Because you do not want other people trying to set this relationship up for you. They fuck it up big time. Fuck it up big time. Doesn't matter if they call themselves Christians or whatever. They are people. Very often, they are extremely manipulative. Do not do that. Take agency into your own hands. But you do want to have implicit acceptance from the social group. That's important. All right, next question. Hi, Pat. Got a message for your Periscope. Are a girl's crazy sexual fantasies a red flag? Do they always relate to reality somehow? So, I don't like... okay. Are they a red flag? Not necessarily. Maybe. It really depends. I mean, if a girl likes pain, that's a red flag. Because if she likes pain, the chances of her being emotionally and probably physically abused are almost certain. Okay? So she's basically transmuting her trauma into sexual release, right? And very often these girls have actually been raped or sexually abused, and a hypersexuality comes out of that. So they might fantasize about being abused because that turns them on, even though they hate that they're turned on. So you're dealing with all sorts of dissonance. And, I've heard some pretty crazy stories of girls that do this sort of stuff, including girls that have really, really kinky sexual fantasies. And, it's really hot until they pull a gun on you. I'm not joking about that, by the way. So I would say a lot of piercings are an example of this. My perspective about piercings is that piercings are a form of body degradation. I think the same thing is true for high levels of tattoos. Some people may disagree with that. And I'm not being dogmatic. I think that, you have to look holistically at somebody. You have to look holistically at the girl. But if a girl is heavily tatted up, heavily pierced, she's trying to somehow obfuscate her body. She's somehow trying to distort the perspective of her body. And that comes from a psychological perspective, right? There's a psychological element to that. But I will also say that, especially in the age of pornography, it's pretty common that girls are going to have some sexual fantasies that are a little bit out there, or that are a little bit, let's just say, not vanilla, I think is a better way to put it. And some of these things can come from, they have a life experience. I don't think that you should necessarily take these too seriously, right? When I say life experience, I'll give you an example. You could say something that like, if a girl, if she has maybe some role play fantasies, right? That could just be a symptom of cultural conditioning, and it could be something very, very mild. Nothing that you would necessarily have to worry about too much. I mean, the reality here is that we all have some sort of sexual fantasies that, for being honest with ourselves, we all have a couple of sexual fantasies that are, fantasies that can be pretty, edgy, that can be pretty, maybe even things we wouldn't want to do in real life. And we don't want to put too much weight onto these things, because then we actually make them into bigger things than they are. Okay. So a girl might fantasize about a threesome with two guys. It doesn't actually even mean that she wants that. Doesn't even mean that she wants that. What she may really want, what's the proxy from that, is that she likes the idea of being desired by two guys. Or maybe she likes the idea of being used by two guys, right? And some of these things can go down a little bit further. The desire one's not necessarily super corrupting. Maybe the used one is an indication of a desire for degradation, right? But I would recommend, don't overread into these things. The biggest point here, this is what I'm going to close on this question with, it's because it's important. The biggest point here is that if you're going to be in a relationship with a girl, you don't want to shame any of these things that she has. Because by shaming it, you shut it down, you bury it, and then it will often either create an intimacy block within the relationship, or she will then seek an outlet for that away from you. Okay? And this is, by the way, one of the reasons why girls are sometimes very kinky on one-night stands, and they want all sorts of crazy stuff that they would never do with a boyfriend, because in a one-night stand, anonymous sex, they can sort of do that without feeling the pressure of having to see the person again. They can be completely forgotten, and they can let that dark part come out, where they can't do that with someone who they actually care about. And that's a problem. You don't want to create that space. You want to create a different space where she can say things, she can share things, even if they're not exactly what you'd like to hear. Sometimes you have to be able to hold space for that, especially if you ask, especially if you open the door to it. But I can tell you, if you open the door to it, you will ultimately create more, you'll create a better sexual environment for the two of you, because then she can share things, and then you can share things, and then something will come of it, right? That will gradually lead to the two of you expanding your sex life together. So, all right. Hi, Pat. Question for your dating periscope. I have a definite avoidant pattern when it comes to women, and this has also at times extended into friendships. After experiencing a connection with a woman, I will often pull back immediately and sabotage the potential relationship as it begins. I believe a big part of the reason why I do this is a feeling that, beyond the fantasy of the first impression, my genuine self is not enough. I eventually won't be able to maintain the illusion of being somebody else, and she will have to see the less attractive, weaker parts of my personality. How would you address this kind of avoidant thinking, and how can a man be their authentic self with their woman without excessive weakness? Thanks. I love the self-awareness, actually. I love the self-awareness, because a lot of guys pretend that they don't actually have any of these problems. They go around LARPing on Twitter and talking about how fucking amazing they are. and how, why they're so alpha they can never get into a relationship, right? Yeah, I'm never going to get into a relationship because I'm like the most alpha guy in the world. Yeah, I see it. I see right through you. Haha, see right through you. I know exactly what's going on inside that head. Now, what's the deal here? What do you do about this? Well, the first thing and primary thing is actually to take what you've already done and move it further. So it's not weakness. It's not weakness, okay? Where does weakness come from? The biggest weakness you have is from a lack of self-awareness. That's where the biggest weakness comes from. Because if you do not know where you're vulnerable, then when someone hits that vulnerable spot, you will melt down. Everything will collapse, right? It's a blind spot. Blind spots are what you want to avoid. Now, if you know you have a blind spot, then you can begin to address it. Now, some people will try to put walls around it, but reality is that doesn't work, because then you either never have a connection with someone then, so there's a trade-off because you never let anybody in, which is the avoidant pattern. The way that you want to do it is you actually want to own the weaknesses. Own the weaknesses. Guys, I'm not perfect, okay? Despite what you might think, I'm not perfect. I know where my weaknesses are. And I'm happy, and I know what my pain, I know when I'm in pain, emotional pain, and I don't care about expressing it. It doesn't mean anything to me, because I'm not afraid of what people are going to think about me, because I'm not asking anybody to carry my emotions for me. I'm just simply able to express them. And that's the real thing. When we talk about weakness and don't be vulnerable, it's because when most guys are vulnerable, it's in the context of, I have so much pain and I can't show the woman. Okay, now I finally showed her, and she didn't want me. Well, actually, what you did was you just dumped tons and tons of crap on her to handle, and it was too much. It was too much stuff, and she didn't like it. And your weakness at that moment, because you hadn't dealt with it, was so profound that you did scare her off. You did actually turn her off. Whereas if you're a guy and you know that you have a problem and you're able to communicate it and share it, then actually women will like you more, believe it or not, because it shows an emotional range. And they also feel like they get closer to you from that. So the big issue here is not having problems with girls. Understand that. The big issue here is not having an emotional pain point. Girls actually could love that. Girls love to try to fix guys. Like, that's not even a negative for them. The issue is that you do not want to put the burden of that onto her. That's what you don't want to do. All right? So own it. Short answer is own it. All right, next question. My son has Asperger's. He's 17 and is socially awkward. For years, he immersed himself in things like sci-fi, military history, fan fiction. Now he wants to make himself more attractive to girls, so he's lost weight, exercises, etc. Any recommendations on how he can temper the awkwardness, his voice, tonality, and approach girls? If not, do you know anyone who has ever done work with autists in that area? I'm not expecting him to be Casanova. I just want to give him a fighting chance. Okay. Well, I would not. Obviously, I am a dating and relationship coach. Okay, so I do work with guys, and I have worked with guys on the spectrum. Now, what I don't know, socially awkward is one thing. Are we talking about like hardcore autism? If we're just talking about like socially awkward on the spectrum, Asperger-ish, I've worked with guys like that before. And I can help him with that. I think the masterclass is also a really good resource, especially if he has that sort of intellectual mind to really absorb a lot of that information. Of course, we don't want things to remain in the intellectual. We want us to go out and take action, which is why I think it would be beneficial to work with me or other people like me who can do that. Now, all this stuff said, tempering the awkwardness, the voice tonality, approaching girls, The hardest thing, I have to tell you this, the hardest thing when it comes to working with people on the spectrum is that they do have a hard time reading cues, and in some occasions their heart center is shut down, and that's part of the reason that they have a hard time connecting with people, because their heart center is somehow or another blocked, and so everything is filtered through logic, and even though they do want connection, they're unable to express it in some way. They're unable to express it in a normal way. So I I'd have to hear his voice tonality. There are voice coaches who can deal with that, and that could be helpful because expressiveness is a really important part in attraction. And I don't work with that. I do tell clients what's going on with their voice if it's a relevant factor. But my guess is that he will be fine. He'll just need someone to help him specifically with his inflection and his tonality, and he'll need somebody who's going to help him to put him out there and help him to attract women. Yeah, I mean, I wanna try to. Oh, I'm happy to hear that, Dex. That's great. I'm happy to hear that. Yeah, I think I would just love with autistic people on the spectrum. It is so situational because there's so many different things of what autism means. I would you said you said Asperger's, which is better. I find that I think coaching will be good for him. I think that's what I'm getting at. I think coaching will be good for him. I think the prognosis without coaching, it doesn't have to be me, but the prognosis without coaching is not usually very good for Asperger's autistic people. I'm being very blunt about that. I think everybody who needs help with women should do coaching at some point. But when you have Asperger's or autism, it is really, you need somebody who's going to be able to really, who's going to care about them and who's really going to give them honest feedback. Especially, in high school, maybe not, but maybe it's too early. But if you go, going into college and stuff like that, it's going to be important. So, and also seeing what's a social circle, etc. Very often you have to help build up their entire life. You have to build up their friend group, because the same thing that stops them from making close connections with friends is the same thing that stops them with women. I do not coach women. And I'm going to tell you just, because I have a lot of women followers now since the COVID cabal. I'm going to tell you bluntly why. I don't coach women for two reasons. The first reason is that I am not a woman and I don't understand the female experience. And even though I understand the male experience and I know that that's valuable for women to understand, I don't feel like I just don't really feel called to work with women through their relationship problems. I feel like women who really understand that are better served for the most part. It's kind of like coming in as a specialist is one thing, but I feel like a woman who has gone through the experience of what it's like to be a woman trying to get a man, I think it's better. The second reason is tied to this. And sorry if this is, if some people don't like it, but this is the truth. Women will gravitate towards Matthew Hussey. I was at Matthew Hussey's, one of his live seminars. There was like 200 people there, 5 guys. I was one of the 5 guys. He's great at what he does, but the Matthew Hussey effect. Women who want to work with you very often are on some level attracted to you. And for me to do this sort of very intimate work that I do with clients, I don't want that energy there. I'm married. I don't want to put myself in a situation where I'm no, you're welcome. You're welcome, AJ. I don't want to put myself in a situation where the woman is trying to improve herself with men, but there's some complicated emotion towards me that I have to manage. And while this is hardly my main priority with it because I don't actually worry about this too much. You can argue that there's also the element of, false accusations and stuff like that. So I don't want any of that. I don't want any of that shit around me. So that's the reason why. I know I make a lot of money. Working with women, but that's all right. Yeah, and Ben, but that's and that's, to be honest, one of the arguments why they should work with a man, because maybe they do need that truth from a man. So I'm not saying that it's bad for women to work at some point with a man. I'm just saying I don't feel called to do it. That's what I'm saying. I don't feel called to do it. I enjoy my bros, enjoy my bros. No, and you're 100% right. You're 100% right about that. It's true. Maybe I'll change my mind at some point, but at the moment, it doesn't feel like it. All right. Hi, Pat. And let me just give you an example here, okay? I have a great relationship, but I just want to make this last point. If I were to, let's say I'm working long hours and I'm talking to women on the phone for hours and I can't spend time with my wife for whatever reason. Okay, I'm helping guys. That's one thing. If I'm helping women through their emotional problems and I don't have the band, it just creates a lot more shit in my own life that I also don't want to deal with. That's just the reality. It's very easy for more emotions to come in. Okay. Hi, Pat. How are you? I have a question for the dating periscope. Straight to the point. I met a girl on New Year's trip and had a great chemistry. She lives in Sao Paulo, which is a 3-hour flight from my city here in Brazil. Since I've got some business in Sao Paulo, I will be able to go see her at least every month. Do you think this kind of relationship can work out? We talk to each other every day, and she's very much interested, way more than me, by the way. I say this because I've got other girls here, but I still like her and want to see how it goes. Thank you very much, man. So, okay. Love straight to the point. I love that. So, look. Why can't she come see you? That's kind of my question here. If she's going to come and see you as well, then sure, go see her every month. But I mean, if she's not going to see you at all, like, that's not cool. And if, let's say she has no money, let's say she's a student, she has no money, why can't you... Trey, I saw it just before this, and I'm just not going to have time to get to it today. It was very long, so we'll get to it next time. This is, I don't have any issue with you going and seeing her. My perspective on long distance relationships is that long distance relationships are fine, but they're fine if they're going to end at some point. So tons of people fall in love via long distance stuff. It happens all the time. What the issue with long distance relationships is that nobody, very often no one's making a change to their life to be one place or another. So if you start to date her, you start to see each other for 3 months or whatever, and you're seeing each other every other week, she comes to see you every 2 weeks, you go to see her, then one of you has to move at some point. That has to happen. So I don't think there's any problem with it. The relationship can work out if one of you moves. If one of you's like, well, I can't move, then stupid. It's stupid. Because then you're escaping. You're not actually trying to have a real relationship. You're not trying to okay, let's lean in and see what happens here. So it can work out if she comes to see you, and it can work out if after 3 to 6 months of this, one of you is willing to move. That's basically the reality. But I feel you, it's amazing how you can be hooking up with girls around you, and you can be and then there could be a girl who you see, when you're away on a trip, and you actually think more about her. It's better with her. Hey, that was my wife, right? Okay, 2 more questions here. I just want to roll through these. Hey, Pat, bought your masterclass before Christmas. Buying the masterclass, guys. Very, very soon. It's very, very soon. Imminent. Working my way through it. Good stuff in there. I mean, the update, so get it now, right? Get it now. Got a question for the Periscope. Basically saw this gorgeous girl for a couple of months. It was 5 months out of a 10-year relationship after he cheated on her, and she was in contact with him due to having a house with him that she had stopped paying the mortgage on but was now living with her parents. Whoa, okay, all right. This is a lot of... Let me go through this again. 5 months out of a 10-year relationship after he cheated on her, she was in contact with him, they had a house together. She stopped paying the mortgage, now living with parents. All right, I got it. I slept with her on the third date. Things were really good between us, and she was glad I wanted to see her for a fourth date. She couldn't see me for a few weeks as she had an operation, but as the weeks went by, she was blowing hot and cold. She called me, set up the date, to which she eventually texted saying she couldn't see me, and then blocked me on WhatsApp. A week later, on Instagram, she said she had a panic attack and really hopes it wasn't our last date. I emphasized and told her to message me when she is in a better headspace. We've not spoken since, and it's been 2 months, but she still watches all my Insta stories. My gut tells me she was confused, had an anxious attachment to her ex, and still had feelings for him, and wants me as backup if it doesn't work out again. I find it hard to believe her panic attack story. Being the first guy she saw out of a relationship, and given the situation above, was I just walking into a bear trap that I had to tread carefully around, treat casually, or was there a chance I could have made her my girlfriend? I knew the ex could be a problem, but I didn't want to give her an ultimatum so soon or even mention it. If she does come back on the scene, do I give her another chance or run? Okay, this is fun because a lot of the ultimate question, a lot of the assumptions are wrong, but the ultimate question is the right one. So the assumptions are wrong because, yeah, this girl, probably has feelings for her ex. Okay, probably has some feelings for her ex. Sure. But it's not really the main thing here. She has feelings for you. She's checking out all your stuff. The issue here really isn't one way or another whether she's into her ex a little bit or not. The issue here is that she's a fucking mess. She's not making up her panic attack story. I don't think she's making it up. I mean, maybe some other thing happened with her ex and that distracted her away from you. And so she panicked and then blocked you or whatever and then came back. But that's not the point. The point here is that she's a mess. And right now, she is continuing to watch all your stuff because she's hoping that you are going to 37 centimeters. She's hoping that you are going to come back and give her more attention again. So do not attempt to be with her because she's a mess. That's basically it. She's going to drain your energy because she is anxious, because she does have mental health issues. And so just literally block her even. Either ignore her or block her. I'd probably block her, though, because here's the deal. It's not worth having these people's energy around you. I mean, if you block her, then she's going to know that something happened. So maybe you don't block her. Maybe you just mute her. But yeah, do not try to make her your girlfriend under any circumstances, unless you really want to waste a lot of time. And because her, 10-year-old boyfriend or whatever, cheat on her, she's probably going to pass that energy on to somebody else. Okay? It's funny how this stuff works, but she might want to take it out on you. So don't be that guy that gets the short end of the stick. All right, last question tonight. It's got COVID cabal. I got to squeeze that in. All right, dating question. What's my thoughts on Rollo's work? Just real quick on this. My career was made by Rollo because I humiliated Rollo multiple times over the course of 2017. Rollo is a low vibration individual, and he has very minimal self-awareness, probably has narcissistic personality disorder, and his canon of work is basically talking about hypergamy over and over and over again. Now, hypergamy is an important element to understand when it comes to women, because hypergamy is related to the dark shadow of female nature and the fact that women can do very cruel things to men, especially when they are in a lower vibration state. But I will say also that Rollo has probably saved a lot of men's lives, because Rollo's pulled people out of grief and apathy and basically a sense of hopelessness and moved them to a position of anger and maybe pride. But he hasn't created any healthy relationships. All the guys I know who have used his work have left him behind. Basically, they've maybe said he helped me at that time, and then I had to move past him. Unfortunately, a lot of guys don't move past him, and a lot of people do not really want. A lot of people really do not want. How do I put this? Yeah, they don't. He doesn't want them to move past him. He actually will claim that anyone who does things differently than him is blue pill, like yours truly. I was purple pill, blue pill, and that if you do this stuff, then you're gonna have a terrible relationship. And it's fucking stupid. He's an idiot. I mean, honestly, actually, he's not. I won't say he's an idiot, although he's not that smart. But he's not an idiot. He's just a very broken person, and that's why his wife left him. Okay, his wife didn't even know what he was working on for like years. That's how terrible the communication in their relationship was. It was basically like anxious avoidant attachment relationship to the extreme. And eventually she got tired of that and she left. But that's all kept up hush hush. Anyway, I feel bad for Rollo fundamentally, but Rollo's made his bed. That's the only way to look at it. And increasingly irrelevant individual. But last question. Dating question. Yeah, it's not public knowledge, but, I know a lot about Jeffrey Miller. Okay. So, I think it's John Miller, actually. John Miller, I think that's right. So, dating question. An ex once told me that she thinks we'd be a great fit for marriage. I think she really meant it. She's not the manipulative type, but of course I could be wrong. Plus, given our relationship, I definitely see her reasoning. I'm 23, she's 22, and generally speaking, we both want to be married by 30. We separated because of careers and families moving, etc. Now, when occasionally we're in the same place, she doesn't want to get together. She's very responsive to my texts and polite and sweet as ever, but simply doesn't have an interest in seeing me. This could be for a ton of reasons, but I don't care what those reasons are. I don't push. Bottom line is that I truly and intuitively feel that she is going to show up years later and expect me to take her in. That is, after denying me the best years of her life. This is disrespectful, and I won't go forward with this. However, all that aside, I can absolutely see myself marrying this girl. She's great, but I can sense what she plans to do. Should I find a way to tell her that this is a big problem for me, or just carry on and let the cards fall where they may? P.S. My intuition could be off, and I could just be wasting my energy on this. I'm totally open to such possibility. I love the self-awareness, man, because you are wasting your energy on this. This girl is manipulating you. And what you're feeling from the intuition is basically, a mind game that's been played on you. So think about this. This is a very common girl game sort of tactic. When the girl is not directly trying to get you, but is trying to put you in a tension position. Okay, we're great for marriage. I'm going to tell you all these things that are going to make you really feel like we should be together, but I won't see you because if I see you, then there's going to be implicit expectations that I have to act on all these things I've told you. And so they will avoid seeing you and continue to tell you stuff from a distance because they get you to continue to chase them, but they don't have to actually give you anything because they have a reason why they can't see you. So what you believe that would be that you could totally see yourself marrying, you could totally see yourself marrying a fantasy that you've created in your mind of this girl. The girl herself sucks. And she's harvesting you, harvesting your energy. My recommendation is to block her number. Block her number and block her on social media. 2 reasons for that. First reason is because it's a waste of your time, waste of your energy. You're thinking about this girl who won't see you when you could be thinking about other women and moving on with your life. And the second reason is that if you block her on all these things, she might try to come see you. So if you did want to hook up with her again, I'm presuming you hooked up before as she's an ex, then you might get that chance, but only if you just completely cut her out. Completely cut her out. Stop talking to her. There's no point in talking to this girl. Waste of your time. All right, guys. COVID Cabal coming up right now. I'll see you in a minute.